Most buyers, when they start touring homes, they go in, they look at the paint and the countertops, and they overlook the things that could cost them thousands down the road. This video, I'm going to go over a couple things to make you aware so that you go through the tour, you let the house talk to you, you move things in, but you also pay attention to the stuff that could cost you money down the road. So here we are, ready to tour homes. This is the exciting part where you get to go in and look at the houses and see exactly what will work, move your things in, start planning your future. And I have to tell you, this part of the job, I love this part of the job, looking at houses too. It's really exciting. It's like, you get to experience through your buyer's eyes. It's like the first time again. Like let's say you have a toddler and your toddler is looking at things and you see it from a different viewpoint. You see it through their eyes, even if they're picking up, a worm and they're like, oh, the worm is so cute. You're like, oh, yes, it is very cute, even though you absolutely hate worms. You know what I'm talking about. My son loved worms. So, yes, you know what I'm talking about. It's that excitement. But you have to make sure that while you're also emotionally, watching, looking at the house and checking it out, that you also look for the telltale signs of things that could be wrong behind the scenes. So you'll hear me mention, let the house talk to you. And I'm not talking about it being haunted or things like that, or maybe there's something wrong with me. No, it's going to talk to you, and you're going to know exactly what I mean. You're going to go in and you're just going to feel it. It's going to feel like home, a place to lay your head, a place to make memories. That talks to you. And I know that it's a house, and it's just materials that you live in, but it's way more than that. You make memories there. You have good memories, you have bad memories, but they're all yours. So when the right house comes along, you're going to feel it because it just feels right. You're not forcing yourself to like the house. If you're forcing the house, it's not talking to you in a positive way. It may be telling you, no, no. So listen to that voice. Listen to your gut. Don't force it. Okay, so one of the things to look for, I know it's easier to look at the cosmetic stuff and think, ew, that's gross. I don't like that. But you want to look for the red flags. The green shag carpet, while it may be hideous, it's not affecting any function of the house except it might be hurting your eyes a little bit because it's so ugly. But what you want to see is, are there any ceiling stains, or are you seeing water coming from under a sink? Have you seen like flooring that's coming up, and maybe that is a sign that water got in somehow? And sometimes accidents happen. It doesn't always mean that it's something major. It could be something small. So when you're looking around, look at things that you know, cracks in the walls, especially cracks going up the walls. You're going to see cracks sometimes in the driveways and any concrete, because in Florida that just happens. It settles. It just depends on how thick the crack is. But if you see a crack in the wall, now that is not a good sign, just to let you know. But things that you can change, countertops, paint colors, don't let that get into your mind and say, oh, I don't want this house because of the hot pink laundry room. That can be painted over, maybe not so easily if it's hot pink. You might have to use a little bit of the primer, but you know what I'm talking about. The other thing is your HVAC. Are we in the middle of summer or when it's warm? Is it cooling enough? One of the things you can do is look, is it cooling? If the temperature says, hey, they have it at 79 degrees, but it's bumped down to 72 and it's not keeping up. That's something that definitely you want to consider because something is not working right. The HVAC system isn't keeping up. Now, there are times in the middle of the summer where we get super hot and we're like 100 or so, and then the units are going to struggle. But there shouldn't be like this giant gap between what it's set at to what it's actually cooling into the house. And that also could be signs that, maybe there's not enough insulation somewhere. There's just a lot of things, which is why you should do inspections if you do want to pursue that house. So, what do I do while you're looking through the house? Is it like HGTV where the agent walks in front of you and says, "Yes, this is the kitchen"? No, I don't do that because I'm pretty sure you know what the kitchen looks like, what the bathroom looks like, and all that. What I do is I let you go. I let you go and look by yourself so that you get to talk. And if it's more than one buyer and you want to talk with your buyer, you can do that with some privacy without me hovering over you and interrupting your thoughts, and you're mentally moving in. While you're doing that, I do look around because one, I do like to look at houses, but two, I'm looking for stains in the ceiling. One time I found water coming out of a sink and there was a leak underneath. So I turned it off, called the listing agent, and let them know. I just look for things that you may not notice because you're trying to, mentally move in, and you're enjoying the process. So I want to protect you. So that's what I do. So I'm not going to tell you which room is. If there's something really cool, and I may point it out to you when you come back out, but other than that, I'm going to let you go so you can check things out on your own. Now, I threw in new construction versus resale. At this point of your journey, you may already know what you want to purchase. And there is big differences, obviously, being new construction. It's brand spanking new. No one else has lived in there. It's got that new car smell. Everything is newer. Chances are that those components, the big ones, electric roof, all that stuff, is going to be lasting you a lot longer, and you won't have to replace them for a long time. The other thing is that homeowners insurance is going to be way cheaper on a new construction home than a resale because of the age. But maybe you like the charm of an older home. Some people, they are not really fans of open floor concept. I'm kind of one of them. I kind of like the older homes because they have the big trees outside. They seem to have a lot more character. I don't necessarily like the big open concept plan. And there's other people that feel the same way, and there's other people that love the open concept. And newer homes are usually not open floor plans, but some of them, if the walls aren't load bearing, you can open them up to make it more open floor concept. But you want, and also to check out too, is the components. They could be older, but you may see a house that is an older home where they've replaced the roof, the electric, the plumbing, the HVAC, and that's a good thing. And that gives you more peace of mind. So it's similar to buying new construction, but you're buying an older home. And you can do what's called a 4-point to give that to the insurance company so that they see that those components are newer as well. So it is just a personal choice. Usually, most people that I know and run into, and we start looking at homes, it's usually I want to buy a new home or I want to buy a resale. It's usually not one that goes in and thinks, "Oh, I may change my mind," because there is usually specific reasons that one is more attracted to them than the other that they cannot get with the opposite. If that makes sense. So now I'm going to talk about the market, but I'm not going to get specific to now because I'm recording this May of 2026. This market is not going to be the same if it's 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. It's just that we're going to look at the current market at the time that you're going to buy. And we're going to see and determine, is it a seller's market, a buyer's market? Is it balanced where it kind of doesn't favor either one, but it's a nice mix? A seller's market is one that favors the sellers. Houses are selling for what they want to list for. They're going quickly. The days on the market is just dropping. The list to sales price is very, very small, higher 90s, closer to 100s. We're seeing appreciation on the prices. Um, Now, a crazy frenzy sellers market that we saw in 2020 to 2022 midway is where houses were just flying off the shelves. You know, sellers were throwing prices against the wall and they were sticking and they were getting whatever they wanted for the most part. The list to sales price was over because there was even investors coming in offering cash way over. That was a frenzy market. I hope we never see that again. And that's not a market that we do see often. I've been doing this for a long time. I've seen sellers markets, but not like that one. That one was very, very crazy. A buyer's market favors the buyers. Maybe the sellers can't. Well, I'm not going to say maybe they can't. They can't throw prices against the wall and it sticks. They actually have to price their houses competitively. So that's an opportunity for you to get prices that are a little bit lower than what they were. You get favorable terms. You'll be able to do inspections. You'll be able to look at the house, maybe think about it that night, and the next morning make a decision. Whereas a seller's market, you got to make sure you're like on top of it, get the offer done, and do it quickly. I'm not saying you wait and sleep on it because you know what's funny? What seems to happen a lot is there's a house and the listing agent's like, hey, I haven't had any offers. And then you make an offer and then all of a sudden two other offers come in. You're like, what? You know, that happens. And it's not the listing agent making up stories. It really does happen. So I'm not saying you should sleep on it, but you're not have to give away everything in order to get the house like we had to a few years ago. So you can do your inspections, you can ask for some repairs. A balanced market is just like that. It doesn't favor either side for the most part. It's a normal market. And we've actually been seeing more of a normal market, even though the media will tell you it's a bad market. But it's not. It's just less because a few years ago we saw an extreme seller market that was not normal. And then you're so used to that when a normal market happens, you think the sky is falling, and it really isn't. So when you go to look, we're going to see what the market's like. You're going to know even before we start touring. I'm going to let you know what kind of market and how the offer should be tailored to make sure you get the best price and get the house that you want. Okay, these next two sections are about what you do when you're inside a house. In the state of Florida, the seller has to disclose in writing if they have cameras that have audio and visual. I'm telling you, assume every single house that they're recording you, that they're watching you, they're listening to you. Assume that. And I know it's a little creepy to think you're going into a house and you're being watched, but you probably are. Sellers do that. I'm going to tell you a story. I had a listing, and the seller had their audio and their video. And of course, you know, it's disclosed, but the buyers are looking around and they have kids with them. And the seller has this candy dish bowl sitting on the table. And the kids walk up to it and they're looking at, you know how kids are. They like that candy. It's calling their name. They want some. And all of a sudden, the seller speaks up and says, hey, you go ahead and help yourself to those. Well, later, of course, you know, I don't know if this is going on, but later, that buyer's agent calls me because they had questions about, you know, what to do with their offer and things like this. And he's like, "Oh, by the way, I let you know that your seller spoke during the showing," and the agent told me what happened, and I'm, I was like, you know, it's one of those situations that I almost chuckled because my seller, I could see him doing that because he just has that type of personality and humor. And I was like, oh, I would definitely have a talk with him that he should not be doing that. And of course I did. I talked to him and we did chuckle, but I do tell the sellers, you know, if you can not watch, not listen, that would actually be better. And then I tell the buyers, don't say anything. Nothing. Don't say anything. Don't say anything about their decor. Don't say anything about like if they have any political things sitting up. Don't say anything about any of that. Just observe, maybe do some whispering if you have to, but don't do it. And don't wait until you get on the porch and do it either, because you know what's on the porch. There's more cameras, the Ring doorbells. They pick up conversations. So wait and talk when you're in the car, because a Ring camera will, same thing. It's going to let them know what you're saying. They're recording you. You don't want to say anything that's going to hurt your position. Either way, good or bad. Now, this kind of goes in with the audio visual cameras. Somebody's always watching you. This is about feedback. Now, it's normal for you to give feedback to your agent. You should do that because that helps us to tailor the houses we send to you on your needs and what you want, so that you see what you want to see. But feedback goes farther than that. Feedback is your buyer's agent giving the listing agent your thoughts on the house. Now, that sounds innocent enough. And this is a tradition that has been happening since I have been in real estate, and I absolutely hate it. I wish it would just go away. You know, our industry is one where we compete for buyers and sellers, but then we cooperate with each other to sell the houses. I don't think there's any other industry set up that way. And that gray line gets very blurred, where you have to work for your buyer, work for your seller, but not work for each other. So meaning, buyer's agents, we need to shut up about feedback. We don't need to tell the listing agent, no matter how much they ask, how nice they are. They don't need to know, because it could hurt your negotiations. Now, let me tell you a little story, okay? I had a buyer. He was an investor. He wanted to look at homes, and there was one home that had tenants in it. And he was actually like, well, this is a good scenario because I can keep those tenants. And actually, that would be good for the tenants if they didn't want to move. Well, trying to set up a showing, I kept sending requests. The tenants kept denying it. It was obvious they probably didn't want to move. And this is even given a 24-hour notice. They just would refuse it. So I told the buyer, he said, never mind. He's like, I'm not interested in this house because I don't want to deal with tenants like that. If they're going to be this difficult just trying to show the home, he's like, that could be a red flag. And I agree. So the agent came back, and I sent the agent and said, hey, I couldn't show it because your tenants kept turning it down. The buyer's not interested because the tenants are being difficult, and he wanted to keep them, and he's afraid it's a red flag. That's my bad for giving that much information. But investors usually, they're all about the numbers. But the agent, she calls me up, and she's mad as a hornet's nest that's been hit around. And she's yelling at me for my feedback. And I'm like thinking, I'm giving you valuable feedback, not this generic, oh, they're not interested. I'm giving you specific and valuable information, and you're going to be mad about it. So see, even the agent wasn't objective. She had this emotion to her. Agents, we should be objective about this, no matter what type of feedback we're receiving, because we need to convey that to the seller as well, or to the buyer. So let's say you absolutely love the house and you're excited. You do want to make an offer, and you're so excited. You're like, this is the one. I'll even offer what they want if it comes down to it. And let's say the listing agent calls me and asks me for feedback, and I'm like, they absolutely love this house. And I think they're going to make an offer. They love this, they love that. It's close to schools, it's close to this. And the listing agent goes back, tells the seller, okay, the buyer, they make their offer. But let's say it's 10 grand lower than the list price. And the seller's like, what the heck? They said they love this house. They said it's perfect. It checks off all the boxes. Why so low? And then they get offended. And then they don't want to work with you. They don't agree to that. They play hardball. Or maybe they do. And then repairs come up, and they don't want to fix the repairs for you. And then maybe it falls apart, or maybe you have to deal with it. Well, guess what? That great feedback, that caused you to have worse negotiating than you would have if we just kept quiet. We need to keep quiet. Bad feedback can do the same thing. If you offend them because you hate the green shag carpet, and they love the green shag carpet because they are Brady Bunch fans, And they bought that because it brought back their childhood memories of a good time. And you said their green shag carpet was hideous. And I said that too. So now they're offended and they don't want to work with you. And now I don't think buyers have realized this tradition that I wish would go away happens, or I think we would realize more often and maybe even have lawsuits of buyers losing negotiating power because of it. And this has happened. A buyer's agent found out that feedback was given to the seller because the seller told them at the closing table, and they told them that's why we didn't negotiate with you on repairs or whatever the issue was. And then they turn around and sue their agent. So this hurts your negotiations. And I know I probably went too long on this, but I'm kind of passionate about it. And agents get mad. They're always in all these real estate groups saying how unprofessional, how lazy these agents are because they're not giving feedback. No, we have a fiduciary obligation to our client, not to the agent. It's not being unprofessional or lazy. It is working for our client. So I have been called names, I have been yelled at, and I am not going to give feedback. And half the time, honestly, I don't even remember what the feedback is because houses start to blend together too. And my concern is making sure you have a positive experience during the showings, not worry about giving feedback to a listing agent. So, no feedback is good feedback. Don't say anything in the house. So maybe you've come across my video and you're thinking about buying a house in Northeast Florida and you want some help in spotting red flags and you haven't picked your own agent yet, you got some questions, comment below, send me an email, send me a text. My contact information is in the description box. I love answering questions and I will always take time out to answer those for you.